You're listening to Comic Reflections, episode 262. I'm your host, Nicholas Prom.
I'm the intergalactic emissary of the Scrub Empire, Jeff Barnhart.
Comic Reflections is brought to you by The Outhousers. You can find our show and other nifty content at theouthousers.com. And if you enjoy this program, please subscribe to us on either iTunes or Stitcher. So, on June 3rd, 2016, the world lost the greatest, Muhammad Ali. Not just a sports icon, but an icon of America, of the civil rights movement, and really an international hero.
Yeah.
And there'll never be another.
No, I don't think I stopped caring about boxing after he left.
Yeah.
I don't like the boxers. Ali, if nothing else, was interesting.
Yeah. You know, neither of us are like sports enthusiasts.
Right.
But Ali was a hero. He was somebody that I cared about. I mean, because even if he never put on a pair of boxing gloves, whatever he would have done would have been interesting, and people would have known who he was.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, interesting. He learned from professional wrestling his persona.
oh, sure.
Yeah, which is a gorgeous George.
Yeah.
It also helped, of all people, Liberace as well. And then it went to Elvis as in the showy, flashy type.
Oh, you're talking about Gorgeous George.
Gorgeous George.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was the original heel in wrestling, right?
Yep. He was great.
Yeah.
And
Sprayed people in the eyes with perfume and stuff like that.
yeah, and he would go to kiss a woman's hand, and then he would stop and kiss his own hand.
That's funny.
Yeah, but he used that trash talk and all that, and maybe we want to watch him.
Yeah, sure. And Muhammad Ali certainly did more than his fair share of that, but he backed it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's talk about this comic book. Of course, we're talking about Superman versus Muhammad Ali, and we got this nice hardcover reprint of this Treasury edition from 1978. It's shrunk down a little bit to closer to standard comic book size.
Thank you.
Well, I do appreciate. I mean, the Treasury format is really fun when you get to read it, but storage is an issue.
Yeah, it's inconvenient.
Yes, but and it's been digitally recolored, and it's just really really sharp, really vibrant looking. Now, the cover, of course, is pretty famous. It's Superman and Ali as drawn by Neal Adams. Now, the original image had the layouts done by Joe Kubert, and as they were going through the process, I think Ali and his people, or like Elijah Muhammad, said, no, this artist isn't going to be what we want. Joe Kubert is great, but I think I understand their...
well, he drew the audience were regular boxing fans, and they made a decision. It's a little bit too dark and all that stuff. And
right. I mean, Joe Kubert, you think, oh, Sergeant Rock, and it's all that really gritty stuff, and also his superhero work stuff was kind of, he didn't do a whole lot of it, and his Superman isn't terribly cool looking. I mean, I've seen some covers that he's done, but I think having Neal Adams do it, who was definitely the most photorealistic artist, was the right move. And of course, has that great wraparound cover with all the famous persons, DC staffers, and comic book characters in the crowd.
Yeah, I got it down without the DC staffers, but then I can't really blame them.
Yeah, I mean, come on, they're having fun.
Yeah,
I think it's cool because I know who a lot of these people are. So it's fun for me.
Yeah.
And I think it maybe says a little something like, what, these people are just as great as all the celebrities and so on that are also included.
Maybe greater. I mean, Tony Orlando and Don.
Yeah, Julie Schwartz, I think, has a greater cultural impact, even though fewer people know who that is.
Yeah. Tie Yellow Ribbon was a great song. I'm not great, but it was a good song.
Sure.
But yeah, and Donnie Marie Osmond.
Sure.
Just decent bubblegum music.
Sure.
But I don't know if anyone listens to them anymore. So this is wonderful.
Yes. And so the story in this issue was was written by Denny O'Neil, but I think he dropped out of the he had to drop out of doing it kind of early on. But he wrote the basic story, and then Neil Adams really fleshed it out. I mean, Denny was a very prolific writer at the time, and I think he just became overcommitted and he couldn't do this. It took over a year to complete this comic. But yeah, penciled by Neil Adams, with inks by Dick Giordano, Terry Austin, and Steve Mitchell. So
yeah, I love the 2-page splash panel
that opens us up. It is great.
It's got these wonderful faces in it.
Yeah,
and I love this guy checking out this girl's butt.
I knew you were going to bring this up, but yeah. I mean, that adds some realism to it.
They didn't add it. It's in the middle of the page.
Right. And so, yeah, we're like looking through some, like, it's a rough part of town.
And in the background, you see Clark and Lois and Jimmy looking for somebody. Who could they be looking for? Muhammad Ali, we find out.
Who's playing some basketball with some kids.
And that's pretty cool. Jimmy, which he forgets to put new film in his camera, and says, "Doe, that's your job, is to take pictures." And it comes up later.
Yes, it does. But anyway, they're interviewing Ali, and that's fun.
Yeah, and here comes an alien. Wham!
Yeah.
Looks pretty cool. The alien knocks down Lois, and Muhammad Ali doesn't play that.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the alien slaps Muhammad Ali, and Ali just
hits him right in the breadbasket, knocks him off his like little flying platform that he's on. It's pretty great. Clark runs away to get Superman.
And he does something clever. He said, "Okay, one alien, then maybe there's more." So he goes up in outer space and sees this huge invasion fleet. Okay, the invasion fleet looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool. So we learned this guy, the alien, is an emissary from the Scrub.
Okay, well,
it's not a great name. I kind of wish. I mean, like their character design for this race is interesting. I kind of wish they would have used an alien race that's already established in DC lore, like the Coons or something like that.
Yeah.
But because like this is like someone they can use and throw away.
Yeah.
Like we never hear from the Scrub again. That I know.
It's too bad because it's an interesting, except for the name, but it's an interesting society. It's kind of like the Klingons, really.
Yeah. They're very much like Klingons.
Yeah. Warrior type, but with honor. At least,
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like you look through the history of DC Comics in following this, and it's like, how come the Scrub never showed up again?
Yeah.
But they have a weird design. They've got this like blue-green skin, and these two nodes on the side of their foreheads that are like red, and I think they're like circular things, but I think they're either bone or another sensory organ that is unspecified.
I think it's something mechanical. I'm not sure, electronic.
Okay, I never picked up on that, but
yeah, and the way it looks there. So
okay, but anyway.
All right, so they want somebody to fight their champion.
They think Earth is a warlike threat to the galaxy, and so they want they want someone on Earth to be the champion to like decide whether they will destroy the Earth or not. And so they're like, Superman obviously is the right choice, but Ali says, "Wait, why not me?"
Yeah.
And Superman and Ali kind of argue about this. It's like, look, Ali, you're the greatest human fighter probably, but I'm Superman.
Yeah. And they're fighting, and then Ali says, arguing. "Wait a minute." Yeah. And he says, "Hey, why were you arguing? He's the bad guy," which is a great line. So.
Yeah. Well, and Ali's right.
Yep. So they said, "Well, why should we listen to you?" Superman says, and I'll show you why. They send some kind of
missiles.
Atomic bomb missiles or something to San Luis.
To destroy it.
Yeah.
And Superman's got to find a way to stop these before they blow it up.
I wonder if Muhammad Ali is from San Luis or something. Why St. Louis?
No, it's just a city with a landmark that's noticeable. He's from Louisville, Kentucky.
That's right.
Come on, Jeff.
I forget where I'm born. So Superman figures out how to get rid of the missiles, and they fall in the ocean and cause a tidal wave, and he fixes the tidal wave. Pretty cool looking stuff.
I like how he stops the tidal wave by like slamming his two fists together and causing a counter, like, vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'd never seen Superman do. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed though, like when Neil Adams, you know, when he's written something in a story, because he writes things into a story that he knows are just going to be cool things to draw that don't necessarily advance the plot.
That's.
But I mean, no, when you give him the reins to write, that's what he does. You know, he's got this book out called Batman Odyssey, and on the cover you've got Batman riding a pterodactyl. Because that looks awesome.
Yeah.
But it's a crazy thing to put in a story.
Yeah.
Just
a
using
little bit of that. It is comic books, and if you're going to do that with any medium, comic books are the one to do that in.
Yeah. No, and I love Neil Adams. I've met Neil a couple times. He's a great guy, and he may be the greatest living comic book artist. I'll let him and George Perez duke it out.
Okay.
Although George would go down just because he's such a sweet guy.
Mm-hmm. So he destroyed. The Scrub are angry about that, so they nuke a deserted island, and Superman, he hesitates because he's surprised at this, and then the islands are nuked.
And so he's okay. I'll play ball. We'll do this.
Yeah. They try to nuke. Well, I guess that shows that they can nuke something. He cannot stop everything.
Right.
So I guess that's the entire point of that.
Yeah.
Which is
I think it's an important point to make because it is Superman, and one might say, well, why doesn't Superman just stop it working at super speed? But it's proof that, he can't be everywhere at once. So, but anyway, what's going on here?
Yeah, so, okay. So they get back, and they're arguing who's going to fight them. So they just said, well, why don't we fight against each other, and we'll make it fair. Superman will get rid of his superpowers.
Right. So Superman and Ali head to the Fortress of Solitude. And there, Ali has to kind of skip the tour because they've got work to do.
Yeah.
Superman builds a boxing ring.
Although it's a really cool scene of his collection, and Ali makes a joke about it, and Superman's really embarrassed, and it's great.
Well, repeat the joke. It's really good.
Let's see. Smithsonian's got nothing on you, brother. You been to a garage sale lately? I felt I needed a hobby.
Superman says.
Yeah.
Well, and he couldn't just collect bottle caps. I mean, come on.
All right. He's got
which is what he says.
Yeah.
But anyway, cool. Superman builds a boxing ring, and then they go to this like little pocket dimension, and Superman has a little thing, like it's a fragment of a red sun that he has in a lead case, and he opens it up, and it will nullify his powers. And in this pocket dimension, time slows to a crawl,
Right.
so they have weeks to train.
A couple months, something like that?
Yeah.
So, and then...
They box.
Yeah.
And Ali schools Superman.
And all of it, the whole page of him talking about boxing and getting into his stances and explaining it, and it's pretty cool. And Superman says, wow, I didn't know it was so complicated.
Yeah.
But you can see about everything. Everything you think is simple, you look into it, it gets vastly complex.
Because everything has minutia in it.
You can probably write a whole library about ball peen hammers.
Sure.
And that's the simplest thing I can think of.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there has to be a craft to making them, and they have to be in the right shape to perform the task they're designed for. And so there's actually a lot to ball peen hammer.
And metallurgy and history and history.
Exactly. So
okay, so Russians get mad at the Scrubs, and they try to nuke them, and it doesn't work. That is very pretty, and the explosions and all that.
Yeah. So the Scrubs get pissed. The Scrub Emperor, who's a real jerk face.
Yeah. Let's see. So they have Herbert Muhammad, who is his Muhammad Ali's son.
It's his manager.
Manager.
It's not his son. That guy is clearly older
I'm
than
sorry.
Ali.
I thought it said father, not fighter. Sorry. Never mind. Okay. I misread that. But
He says, "I don't know where Superman or Ali are, but I guarantee you, if there's anyone who's going to save the Earth, it's going to be those guys."
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
No, these two great men. Yeah. It looks like I would love to have been a fly on the wall when they were negotiating this between Muhammad Ali and DC.
Well, and
this is, I think, part of it. Oh, you got to put my manager in with
right. Well, yeah, and Bundini Brown and whoever his fight doctor and stuff. Those guys are all in it, at least having cameos. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was like Ali's spiritual advisor or leader, whatever, from the Nation of Islam, he had to approve of Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams working on the project. And so they met with them, and they got the stamp of approval, I guess, and they went forward with it.
Would they let them do it? They were Jewish.
I don't. Well, why would that make a difference? Because Denny and Neil aren't Muslims.
Yeah, but
well, if Judaism was an issue, they wouldn't have gone to DC Comics, because
that's true.
Half the people that work there are Jews. So I don't really follow this train of logic.
No, I'm just asking a question. So, but it is. There's another instance of there's a theory about, and we'll come to the very last page.
Okay.
So, okay. The bad guy figures out that Superman's playing a trick with the time, so he says, "You got to come now."
Which is them being kind of shysty, because look, they gave him like 24 hours or something.
Which ain't not long.
No, but it's just like, yeah, they've had several days in this pocket dimension, but dude, like you're already like welshing on the bet, which is crappy of them. So, but he sends robots to collect Superman and Ali, and this is really fun.
Yeah, 3 of them, 2 big hulking robots, and 1 feisty small one.
Yeah, which kind of reminds me of Booster Gold's little flying robot, Skeets, who would come much later. You are not familiar with these characters. No. Okay.
I think Superman turns off the red sun fragment. And
he closes the lead box that it's in, and then he trashes the robots. But Ali distracts him long enough so he can do that. Yeah. Then they come along anyway.
Yeah. It's cool. Ali takes him, is in a bubble. Superman makes a bubble and flies him, and he's enjoying himself.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. And they meet the Emperor, Ratlar.
Yeah.
And Ratlar introduces to Hunya.
Yeah, who is their genetically engineered champion. And he is a big guy. He has got so much weight, height, and reach over Ali and Superman.
Yeah.
That realistically, I don't see how Ali could beat a guy this big. But it's a comic book, so...
and there's always a thing. It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fighting dog.
Okay.
And but I love that Ali and Superman are acting bored with him.
Right.
We're not impressed.
Yeah, and I loved... right, and the Superman, the interplay between Superman and Ali is wonderful. I mean, and they really come across like 2 real guys talking to each other.
Yeah.
You know, they're acting like Paul Newman and Robert Redford in The Sting.
Oh.
That's how they're coming across.
Movie.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Those guys, that's a pair of guys who had just had wonderful chemistry on screen. That's why I'm using that example.
Yeah.
So anyway.
All right, so they're going to have a huge fight, and Ratlar has invited the whole galaxy.
Yeah.
And everyone's coming, and it's a really cool scene, and you got each of these little DC aliens, and they're cool. I like their these little bitty guys with
huge heads.
Yeah, and they're blue.
Yeah, and it's not the Guardians of the Universe. This is a different little blue men with big heads.
Yeah.
There we're seeing lots of alien races we don't see, and also a one-panel cameo by Adam Strange and Alana, which right on. I really like Adam Strange, even though I'm bored by his stories.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's weird, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that ought to work but don't work, and you're sad about it.
Yeah, because I like the character, I like the concept. He's a Buck Rogers, he's a Flash Gordon. And for all intents and purposes, I should be just thoroughly enjoying his stories. But they're visually beautiful, and I think he's a cool character. but those stories are just
How about the
dull,
one
dull
we
as
did?
dishwater.
I thought the one we did was pretty good, though.
We've done a few Adam Strange stories.
Yeah, I usually enjoy them.
There was one that we did that included the Justice League.
Yeah, it was okay.
That one was not too bad. That was the most recent one we did. But a couple years ago, I think we did a couple Adam Strange stories, and I was like, they're all right, but they look beautiful. So,
all right. So they choose for some reason Jimmy Olsen to do
the newscast. of the fight, and now this is the preliminary fight. This is the fight between Superman and Ali to determine who will be the champion. Now they're in a scenario that will simulate being under a red sun, so that Superman will not have his powers. He'll be mortal, basically.
Yeah. I love the aliens looking at it. There's some lava people watching it, and all kinds of stuff. It's really fun, and Earth is watching it because we're going to get blown up. So,
right.
Here's Howard Cosell, our first non-Ali cameo. So
sure.
And,
you mean like that's not part of his entourage or his group? Yeah. But Howard Cosell and Ali were great friends, which I think is cool. And I like how Superman wears his costume and cape because the aliens will not be able to tell two humans apart. We basically look alike to them.
That is funny.
And it speaks to the underlying racism of, a racist would maybe think that all black people look alike, for example.
Right.
That's it's saying that without saying it.
Yeah.
And it's putting it into this wider perspective, which I think is nice.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so little robots.
Who was Angelo Dundee was the guy I was trying to remember.
Yeah.
Ali's trainer. But anyway, so they're gonna fight. The fight happens.
Perry White is on Superman's corner.
Yeah.
He has Golden Gloves.
Yeah, and it's like they found a way to write him in because there's really no room in the story for him to do anything.
Yeah, and that's all he does. So
yeah.
And he looks on while the fight goes on. It's a huge, cool fight. Superman gets in some licks, but then Muhammad Ali starts kicking his butt bad.
Yeah.
And great page full of Ali smacking him around.
Yeah, it goes on for several pages, and Superman he takes a lot of punishment. He takes a long while for him to give in and go down.
Yeah,
but he does.
Now the crowd is saying, "Fall down, cause," and don't want him to get hurt.
Yeah, and he's pretty beat up.
And it's pretty cool. Ali walks away from him because he knows he's beaten, and Superman's still trying to stand up, and then he just collapses.
Yeah, because Ali doesn't. It's like in the Rumble in the Jungle. When George Foreman was like kind of starting to fall, Ali could have hit him again, and as he was going down, and it's like no, he'd had enough.
Yeah.
It shows like this is a guy. It's like he knows when to just like, hey, I've won, and I don't need to hurt this guy.
Yeah. Cool.
So Superman's carried off in a stretcher, full page splash, and he's just bruised. His face is all just beat.
It reminds me of his death.
Yes, yeah. Which reminds you of a story that happened 20, 30 years later.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it sort of is drawn the same. The bruises are done the same way.
Sure. And maybe, because, I hadn't read this, when that came out, but maybe there was some intentionality of it being a callback to this.
Maybe so.
So anyway, Superman's carried off.
Yeah, Ali and Hunya is going to fight. And let's see, what's going on? Rattler is wondering where Superman is, and they said, well, you're taking him off in an ambulance. So, their Navy, Scrub Navy, puts Superman into a really nice ship, salutes him, and sends him home because they appreciate his bravery.
Sure.
And stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah. So even though Rattler is a real POS, the Scrub are not without honor.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone's watching the TV, and I love this stuff. And the little aliens watching, and
it's great.
Yeah. Jimmy Olsen's telling how great, how peace-loving humans are.
Which I'm like, really, Jimmy?
Yeah.
You're kind of full of crap, Jim.
Yeah. And and then Pallas Athena comes up and says,
What?
Yeah, it says, what's the point of this or something?
I mean, it comes up later because she ends up being the adjudicator of the final match.
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird that she shows up.
Yeah.
You want to go into that a little bit?
I don't think we said that. She appears in the ring.
Yeah.
And she takes over the referee's position.
Yeah. Perry White says, "Great Caesar's ghost," and she's like, "I am no ghost, Perry White."
Nor Caesar. So Pallas Athena.
Yeah. Well, Mike, that is.
I'm not sure how you pronounce that.
I think we could say Athena. That's fine. But anyway, that's super weird.
Yeah. And so she's going to make it fair.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. Ali starts insulting his rival.
Hunya. And of course, Ratlar objects. But Pallas Athena, she steps in and is like, no, psychological warfare is totally fair and acceptable.
Universally accepted tactic, which is true. So
I mean, we don't know about the whole universe, but but whatever. For the sake of this comic book, sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Ratlar wants Ali to predict when he's going to win.
Right.
And Ali says, nah. And he says, well, if you don't do that, I'll destroy the world right now.
Wait, what? That's not the deal.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay, fine. And so Ali gets mad and he tells him what round he's going to
hit the floor in 4. And furthermore...
And he goes on to this big speech, how he's going to moitorize him, basically.
I'm going to whip him and spank him. I'm the greatest. I'm the king. I'm mad. I'm terrible. I'm going to destroy. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it just goes on. He's going to be the greatest in all of time and space, which, man, that's great.
Yeah. I have a nice little photo image here.
Yeah, in the background. They did use a photo negative, and I mean, I still think Neil drew this, but it's just heavily photo referenced. There's a couple of close-ups of Ali that are clearly like, oh, this is worked from a photo, but it's great.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Bundini Brown has kind of slipped off.
Yeah. So what's the deal with this? And he goes around kicking butt and says, weird. And then, it turns out he's Superman.
So they pulled a foolie.
Yeah,
That's
some switcheroo or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, Superman fought Ali in the ring, but obviously he took a dive.
Yeah.
And he was...
Oh, he didn't... Not a dive, because I think they would have figured out it was a dive. He let Ali win by beating the crap out of him, which is a little bit different from a dive.
Right. And
he's
Superman,
not faking it or anything.
Superman, I don't think he's got his full powers back, but he got enough, yellow sun radiation to heal up. And they sent Bundini Brown back to Earth disguised as Superman.
Yeah.
Which, okay, that's fun.
That's cool.
So now to the fight with Ali and Hunya, which geez, he practically does 2 matches back to back.
Yeah, that's I thought about that too. It says, man, that's what.
And honestly, in this context, Hunya is probably going to be a tougher fight than Superman.
Yeah, he's got a long reach. He's been training.
Yeah,
he's fresh and
and he's a genetically bred warrior.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Ali starts with some jabs, and all of a sudden, Hunya knocks the crap.
He's really clinging his clock. So Ali has to go into the rope-a-dope.
Mm-hmm. But it's not working because it's not tiring him out.
Right.
So
what's Superman up to?
No, we still see him as Bundini, but then he takes off his face,
his rubber mask.
Yeah.
Right his there. Mission Impossible mask.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Superman, we definitely see he's still bruised in the face, but he doesn't really have his powers back yet.
Yeah. And he tries to fly and it doesn't work.
Yeah, and he falls, and he would have fallen to his death except for there was a light bridge,
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, back to the fight with Ali.
Yeah, and it's not going well, but he's still defiant though, which is cool.
Yeah.
And he gets a few good licks in.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Superman did, he called. He's in the control booth,
and he impersonated the voice of Ratlar, the Emperor, and sent the Scrub fleet back to Scrub.
Yeah. So Superman goes to the fleet. And the reason he did this, because he knew there was going to be a huge fight, and he didn't want Earth destroyed.
Right.
Which is kind of cool. Good story.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Well, and you go back to Silver Age stories where Superman would like fight guys who came from Kandor or the Phantom Zone or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, look, let's go to a desert isle where we can battle and innocent bystanders won't be hurt.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting the forethought of like super battles, would be this giant destructive melee, which they would be.
The first Superman movie, people.
What do you mean?
The
most recent?
Yeah.
Man of Steel.
Man of Steel was controversial because a lot of buildings were destroyed and all that.
Yeah. And it's just like they're like, why isn't Superman saving all these people? And like they're forgetting that this is just his first time out in action. It's his first time he's ever been in a fight, and he's fighting all these Kryptonians who are trained Superman. Warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's totally inexperienced.
Mm-hmm.
The only edge he has is he's been on Earth mastering the control of his powers, but he was not a fighter.
Yeah.
So anyway.
The enemy armada is huge.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So Superman goes out. He goes to a place where there's a yellow sun.
Clearly. And so he gets his powers back. Yay!
Yeah.
And what does he do? He finds a way. He just flies straight through all the engines.
Well, that's later.
Oh, okay.
He figures out how to go through their force field. And then he finds a reinforced hatch cover. And he starts smashing them, using it to smash the ships.
Yeah.
Then they kind of blast him really bad, though.
Yeah. But he's fine because he's Superman.
Mm-hmm. Back in the ring, Muhammad Ali is fighting back, and he pounds Hunya and knocks him out.
Yeah.
Out of the ring.
Oh, yeah, because Ratlar had said, we're going to enslave everyone on Earth. And that made Ali really mad. And so that strengthened his resolve. He's like, I am going to fight with everything I've got. I cannot let the people of Earth be enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
And so he beats Hunya. And then Ratlar, of course, tries to renege on the deal.
Right. And
also, he's muffin topping really bad in his costume.
Yep. And he's really mad because the fight was won by trickery and warmongering Earth. Wow.
Which is crazy. It's like this guy was never going to hold up his end of the bargain no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Superman's fighting the fleet, and he's trying to think about how to do it because there's a bunch of ships.
Yeah.
So he gets them to get in a line to blast them, and he just goes through all the engines
at great speed, which is great. Yeah, sorry, I goofed on the order of how things went.
But it was too much, and it knocked him out.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of cool looking.
I like the idea, though, of Superman performing some incredible super feat and then being like, I am pooped, Because if he had done that and then been just like, da-da-da, everything's fine, he's got to have some limitations, even Superman.
Right. So Ratlar is really happy that Superman is knocked out. And he's lording it over. He's going to destroy Earth anyway. And then Hunya turns around and just blasts him one with his fist.
Yeah.
Because Hunya is one of my favorite cultural tropes, the honorable enemy.
Yeah. He even though he was bred to fight and serve the Scrub Empire, he realized how honorless their Ratlar was, because he was going against the deal the entire way through. And basically he overthrows the Emperor, deposes him, and takes his place.
Yeah. Which is cool.
And he says the Scrub were never going to bother Earth again. Mm-hmm. At least, as long as he's whatever. Because the people install him.
Right.
Because he's shown how honorable he is.
Yeah, because Ali was trash-mouthing him.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool of Hunya to, understand that was just trash talk and all.
Yeah, and Hunya is a man.
Mm-hmm.
And despite being this hulking brute, he has a great sense of what's right, and of dignity, and I like this guy. Yeah. Even though this was probably his one comic book appearance.
I was just thinking, man, I'd like to read more about this.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So anyway.
Yeah. So Superman asks him mine, and he explains all that. And we get to the final page.
Yeah.
A year later, Superman and Mama Lee is talking.
It says days later.
Or days later? Okay.
Yeah, why would it be a year?
I don't know. Okay.
So Superman and Ali are just hanging out.
Yeah.
And Ali reveals that he knows that Superman is Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm. This is controversial. People think that Ali's camp wanted Ali in the comic book to know who Clark Kent was. That's intriguing. I was reading some comments about the comic books. Lex Luthor, the super genius, has been 70 years trying to kill Superman, and he didn't find out.
You know why? Because Lex's ego gets in the way of seeing something that, yes, a genius of his intellect should be able to figure out.
Yeah, I can see the point there, and sort of,
but
he uses
Ali was sharp and caught something when in the basketball fight. When Clark and Lois and Jimmy met Ali at the basketball court. That's what do we call that?
He finds out that Clark Kent knows that Jimmy didn't have any film in his camera, and then Superman makes a comment about it later. And how does Superman know?
Unless he was right there.
Yeah, it says, "Oh, I use my X-ray vision." Oh, Superman, you know that I would destroy the film. Oh, you got me there.
Right.
So I guess we have Muhammad Ali's tacit promise he's not going to spill the beans. He doesn't say so.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. And also, Ali doesn't show up in the comics either. But then the story ends in a 2-page splash. Superman and Ali shaking hands, and Ali says, "Superman, we are the greatest." Mm-hmm. And man, this comic book is wonderful.
Is this the most famous comic book of all time?
I saw that in your notes, and I'm like, where are you even getting that idea from? Back that notion up.
What would be more famous? The first Superman?
Yes, Action Comics #1, or Detective 27, Amazing Fantasy 15. You know, this is a famous comic book. Yes, the most famous? No, not by a mile. It is a very well-known comic book.
Yeah,
but
okay. I watched the documentary on underground comics, and they use this to show how silly comic books were at the time compared to
how avant-garde and.
Yeah, no, I was vastly annoyed, but
I watched a documentary about comics, and I was really enjoying it. This was from the late '80s, and I was really digging it until like they get to the part about indie comics, and they're just like totally looking down their nose at mainstream comics, and I'm just like, we have this wonderful huge medium, and you can do anything in it,
right? And
nothing is more or less valid in this expressive form than any other thing. Don't make because you're avant-garde and underground, make it seem so much more important when we're still just talking about comic books here. Express yourself however you want. To me, that's just like measuring dicks, okay?
Okay.
Because, I mean, it's somebody like butthurt because, somebody, there's a real industry where people make a real living and a lot of underground people don't. But I mean, I think that's an excuse for that kind of elitism or that kind of snobbery. It's a mask. And I think it's crap.
Yeah.
Look, I like underground comics.
Same here.
I love mainstream comics.
There's a lot of underground comics that are awful.
Yeah.
And they try too hard to be risque or
edgy or whatever.
Yeah. And it's trying too hard. Artists don't let people see them sweat. And they're sweating to make it...
and it's just like your pretentiousness is showing.
Mm-hmm. It is one of the biggest sins of art is being pretentious.
Right. I mean, like, the thing is, look, Superman versus Muhammad Ali. Look, this is a really fun, dumb comic book.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's wonderful.
It is written for kids.
But also, it's like, why is this bad? Just because it's silly?
Mm-hmm.
This was like a joy to read, and anything that warms the cockles of one's heart, it is above reproach in the realms of criticism.
Yeah.
You know, in matters of taste, there can be no argument.
Right. Okay, that's my line.
That's not your line. You're quoting somebody else when you say it.
No,
this
but I'm bringing it back, baby.
Okay. This is all stuff we talk about off show.
De gustibus non disputandum. That's Latin for what he just said. Yeah, I don't know. This is better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and I had never read this before.
All the snarky comments, oh, how silly and all that stuff.
Well, it is silly, but
it's a comic book.
It's fun. Like, we're supposed to be enjoying this.
Yeah.
And it's just enjoyable. Like, I read comic books because I want to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I do. So.
Yeah. Yeah, there's good and bad and everything. There's Sturgeon's Law.
Yes.
95% of everything is crap. But this wasn't crap. It was pretty darn good. And I'm not a big fan of 70s Superman.
Yeah. But this is fun.
Yeah.
So, are you about it?
I think cameos I only recognize about a dozen. I really wish I had.
Oh, you mean in the wraparound cover?
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah,
thing.
That is the thing you can pore over for hours, and this does have a key to point out all of the celebrities of the day and DC staffers and characters that are in the crowd, and that's really fun. But if that's it, then
that is
okay. Comic Reflections is recorded in Portland, Oregon, and produced by Sean Roof. Until next time,
we'll see you in the funny pages.
Here's the story of Cassius Clay, who changed his name to Muhammad Ali. He knows how to talk and he knows how to fight, and all the contenders were beat out of sight. Sing Muhammad, Muhammad Ali. He floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee. Muhammad, the black Superman, who calls to the other guy, Ali. Catch me if you can. Now all you fight fans, you've got to agree, there ain't no flies on Muhammad Ali. He fills the arena wherever he goes, and everyone gets what they pay for. Muhammad was known to have said, you watch me shuffle and I jab off your head. He moves like the black Superman and calls to the other guy, I'm Ali. Catch me if you can. He says, I'm the greatest the world's ever seen, the heavyweight champion who came back again. My face is so pretty, you don't see a scar, which proves I'm the king of the ring by far. Sing Muhammad, Muhammad Ali. He floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee. Muhammad, the black Superman, who calls to the other guy, I'm Ali. Catch me if you can. He's been taking it easy, and then suddenly the moment came. Suddenly the moment came. Watch it. And that was no phantom. That was no phantom punch. That was no phantom punch. And he's down and out. However many times you look at that, it's the clearest punch you can see. George Foreman down on the floor. No phantom punch. Sing Muhammad, Muhammad Ali. He floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee. Muhammad, the black Superman, who calls to the other guy, I'm Ali. Catch me if you can. I'm Ali. Catch me if you can.